I didn't feel joyful. I was scared. I was afraid. And it wasn't anxiety. They were like panic attacks.
Goldie Hawn was never quite as innocent as Hollywood preferred to imagine. Beneath the laughter, the glowing smile, and the effortless charm was someone who remembered every slight, every joke that cut a little too deep. She never forgot the moments when kindness was mistaken for fragility. And when those moments stacked up, Goldie didn't lash out. She stepped back silently, for good. Subscribe now for more Hollywood stories they never say out loud, because this one hides sharper edges than it appears. For years, she mastered survival better than most. She brushed things aside with laughter. She kept productions peaceful. She shielded egos that never earned her protection. But some boundaries, once crossed, never disappeared, and the men who crossed them eventually understood that lesson. Goldie Hawn may project softness, but her memory is exact. The first man on her unspoken list transformed a breezy comedy into mental warfare: Chevy Chase. When Foul Play began production in 1978, everything looked ideal. Goldie Hawn, America's darling, paired with Chevy Chase, comedy's rising star, trading wit and charm. On camera, the spark was undeniable. Away from it, things soured quickly. Chevy Chase showed up with an ego too big to ignore. He improvised non-stop, not to elevate scenes, but to dominate them. Dialogue was rewritten mid-take, scenes he disliked were rejected outright, and anything that didn't revolve around him became a target. Crew members recall how the atmosphere shifted the moment cameras stopped rolling. What appeared playful on screen became sharp and tense behind it. Goldie worked to keep peace. She joked, encouraged, and absorbed the strain so others wouldn't have to, but even her patience had an endpoint. Reports say Chase grew resentful when Goldie landed bigger laughs and bristled whenever focus drifted from him. He lashed out at crew, challenged the director in front of everyone, and treated teamwork like a contest he had to win. One day, a crew member overheard Goldie quietly tell a stylist, "When the cameras stop, he isn't funny, he's just mean." That edge became impossible to conceal. Chase mocked Goldie's sunny persona and questioned her comedic intelligence, ignoring that she was already among Hollywood's most profitable stars. He even told a producer she should feel fortunate to be near his level, a comment that spread through the crew like venom. By the final stretch of filming, communication was strictly necessary only. Goldie requested separate rehearsals just to escape his presence. The set felt divided, tense, worn down. Everyone counted the days until it ended. When the movie succeeded, studios immediately floated sequels and reunions. Goldie shut it down without a second thought. No talks, no nostalgia, no do-overs. Her agent made it unmistakable. She had no interest. That distance never softened. No friendly interviews, no throwback jokes, only silence. In her world, Chevy Chase was finished. The next man on her unspoken list didn't sabotage a project. He attempted possession: Warren Beatty. In the 1970s, Warren Beatty wasn't merely influential. He was untouchable, magnetic, deeply connected, and accustomed to women revolving around him. When he noticed Goldie Hawn, he assumed compliance would follow. Initially, he leaned on charm, invites, flattery, lingering touches disguised as playfulness. Goldie remained courteous but disengaged. She knew his history. She'd seen actresses drawn in, then discarded once interest faded. She turned him down politely more than once. That's when the atmosphere changed. Beatty wasn't familiar with refusal, especially from someone he quietly dismissed as frivolous. According to insiders, the charm morphed into subtle retaliation. Goldie's reputation began shifting in powerful circles. Whispers labeled her unreliable, too light, unfit for prestige roles. Nothing overt, nothing provable, just enough uncertainty planted carefully. Meetings vanished, scripts once promised stalled, invitations to influential spaces dried up. It didn't destroy her career, it slowly compressed it, reminding her who controlled the room. Goldie saw it immediately. She never confronted him publicly. She never fueled gossip. When asked if she'd ever collaborate with him, her answer stayed simple: "I don't mix business with power games." In private, she was sharper. A former assistant recalled her saying, "He can't handle rejection. He retaliates." And that's exactly what happened.
Years later, at an awards ceremony, Beatty approached her as if nothing lingered. Same grin, same certainty. Goldie returned the smile, turned away, and left without speaking. A nearby reporter whispered, "That look could freeze fire." From then on, Beatty's name was a non-starter. Any studio suggestion was met with immediate refusal. Calm, absolute. The next man didn't flirt or maneuver quietly. He chose public humiliation, Dustin Hoffman. The audition space was tight and personal. Producers present, a casting director, two well-known actors reading together. Goldie Hawn had been invited to audition for a dramatic role, a chance to break past comedy expectations. Dustin Hoffman was already attached. At first, the scene flowed. Then Hoffman cut it short mid-line. He stared at Goldie and said flatly, "You're not there." The air shifted. He then looked at the producers and added with a grin, "She's still acting like it's television." Some laughed awkwardly. Others avoided eye contact. Goldie felt the sting instantly. This wasn't guidance. This wasn't creative exchange. It was a power move, executed publicly. Hoffman wasn't helping the scene. He was claiming dominance. She completed the reading with composure and control, but something had closed. The following day, she exited the project. No discussions, no callbacks, no reconsideration. She told her agent she wouldn't beg for respect from men who already saw her as a joke. Attempts were made to smooth it over. She declined every one. Behind closed doors, the story spread. Hoffman hadn't revealed her weakness. He'd revealed his own. What he framed as dedication felt to Goldie like cruelty disguised as craft. It wasn't about artistry or love for the work. It was about power. Much later, she referenced it indirectly during a conversation with a reporter. She remarked that certain men in Hollywood forget they're not in charge of the women around them. Those in her inner circle understood exactly who she was referring to. That experience stayed with her, not because a part slipped away, but because for a fleeting moment it made her doubt her own worth. And for Goldie, that doubt cut deeper than any lost opportunity. She never shared a project with Hoffman again. By then, the pattern was impossible to ignore. Goldie didn't fight loudly or publicly. She drew lines instead, subtle but lasting. Men who confused her kindness for vulnerability learned that truth once and never again. Because when Goldie Hawn decides something is over, she doesn't make a scene. She erases the possibility entirely. The next name on Goldie Hawn's mental list wasn't someone who embarrassed her in an audition or poisoned reputations behind the scenes. What he did felt far more corrosive. He turned disrespect into a punchline. Bill Murray. Bill Murray showed up late to the table read. There was no apology or excuse, only a noisy arrival, a coffee carelessly placed on the script, and a grin that implied impatience with everyone else. The film was a late 1980s comedy designed around looseness and charm. On paper, it seemed like ideal casting. Goldie Hawn and Bill Murray, two giants of comedy. Studio heads were already hearing laughter in their heads. Goldie sensed within moments that something felt off. Murray tore into the script as if it were a nuisance. He ridiculed lines, altered dialogue on the fly, and punctured emotional moments with shallow jokes meant to draw attention rather than elevate the story. The writers sat stiff as years of effort were reduced to gags. Initially, Goldie tried to adapt, smiling, shifting her rhythm, trusting the disorder might fade. It never did. Midway through a scene, Murray turned toward her and said, clearly enough for the room, "Why don't you try acting like you've done drama before?" The laughter followed, the kind that always appears when powerful men decide cruelty equals wit. Goldie didn't join in. During the break, she closed her script and quietly exited the room. There was no argument or dramatic exit. The following day, her representatives told the producers she was leaving. There were no demands or counteroffers. In private, her reasoning was firm. Murray hadn't confused chaos with creativity. He had turned it into a weapon. To Goldie, his approach wasn't artistic freedom. It was emotional laziness masquerading as brilliance, a way to control spaces while calling it performance.
Studios attempted to smooth things over. Financial incentives appeared. Regrets were implied. Goldie declined them all. She wasn't furious. She was finished. That incident led to a choice that altered her path. She stopped accepting buddy comedies centered on volatile men. She refused sets where she was expected to absorb disorder so others could sparkle. Years later, when questioned about rejecting so many male-driven comedies, she replied simply, "I chose peace." The next man didn't rely on humor or improvisation. His contempt was colder and more calculated, wrapped in moral superiority. Sean Penn. The moment occurred at a charity gala in Malibu, surrounded by industry power brokers, donors, flashing cameras, and applause on cue. Goldie Hawn attended to speak about mental health and mindfulness, topics deeply tied to her life. She wasn't there to promote a film. She wasn't selling an image. She was sharing lived truth. Before she reached the podium, Sean Penn was visibly irritated. Guests later remembered him sighing, rolling his eyes, and muttering remarks about what he dismissed as yet another celebrity wellness lecture. A few people laughed uncomfortably. Most chose silence. Goldie spoke with steadiness. Her words were open, reflective. Goldie delivered her message with calm conviction. It was sincere, vulnerable, and real. The applause that followed felt earned. As she stepped away, Penn leaned back and scoffed loudly enough for multiple tables to hear. "She should stick to giggling," he said. Goldie offered no reaction. She smiled, lifted her glass, and left ahead of schedule. On the drive home, she broke down, not from humiliation, but from fatigue. After decades of success, acclaim, and proven substance, she was still being reduced to a caricature by men who mistook cynicism for depth. That evening marked a shift. From that point forward, Penn ceased to exist in her orbit. No shared interviews, no combined appearances, no casual exchanges at industry gatherings. When asked about him later, her response was brief. "Not my energy." In private, her view was sharper. Friends recall her saying that activism without compassion was simply ego wearing a better costume. Penn's intensity didn't read as integrity to her. It felt staged, and she refused to be sacrificed for another man's ego. The last name that lingered wasn't a rival or an obvious bully, but something subtler and more disturbing: Kirk Douglas. Goldie Hawn valued legacy and understood the weight of an industry shaped by titans. Few carried more authority than Douglas, yet reverence never translated to ease. He wasn't openly rude or loud. Instead, his disregard arrived cloaked in polished charm, grand hellos, lingering stares, praise for her looks that erased her achievements. Over time, a pattern emerged in public spaces. Her points were cut short, her ideas minimized, while men were framed as thinkers and she as pleasant and glowing. After being interrupted yet again at a round table, she rose quietly, said she'd finished speaking, and left. To most, Douglas appeared courtly and kind. To Goldie, he symbolized a quieter rot, a system that admired women aesthetically while sidelining their authority. She later admitted to a friend that even at the top, a woman could still feel ornamental. There was no scandal or showdown, only a lasting unease that never lifted. She stayed close to those who met her as an equal. With Douglas, space remained, not from resentment, but awareness.
By her late 70s, the pattern was clear. She avoided conflict, skipped demands, and enforced boundaries. Chevy Chase revealed how meanness can masquerade as humor. Warren Beatty showed how power retaliates against refusal. Dustin Hoffman blurred ego with artistry. Bill Murray demonstrated the toll of disorder. Sean Penn mocked sincerity. Kirk Douglas represented a legacy that never fully welcomed her voice. What connects these moments isn't resentment, it's dignity. If this side of Goldie Hawn caught you off guard, subscribe for more Hollywood stories left untold, and share which moment stayed with you most.